Okay, I'm making this tutorial to talk about importing your objects and assigning materials to them. So here I've just got a new level and I chose the basic one, so I've got very little going on here. I'm just going to show you an example of an FBX that I'm dropping in. I tend to put a setting on there, so if I just put it all reset to default, by default it will create a new material for you. I tend to put do not create material, and then I'll set that up myself just so I can check that all the maps are working properly and in the right nodes. Because sometimes Unreal can interpret a map as a different kind of map to what it actually is, so it may put it in the wrong slot. So I generally prefer to just node it up myself, like slot those nodes in where they need to go myself. So I'll not create a new material, I'll import just the FBX there, and then what I'll do is I will grab the materials that I need for them, or the texture maps, sorry, not materials. So these are the texture maps, and then I will make a new material. So this is going to be M, so it's a master material. Push block. So in this material area, I will grab these texture maps, drop them in here, and then just slot them up to where they need to be. That was, pop that there. That's normal. That's ambient occlusion. So you might have more than this sometimes. So you may end up having a roughness map as well. You might have other maps that you've decided to include in there, like metallic, for example. So in this case, I didn't need all of those. So I'm just quickly showing you this example here with those maps. And something else to note, if you are downloading from somewhere like Polyhaven, or if you're exporting from Substance and you choose to use the RGB channels, what it means is that we can have less maps in the Unreal area, and if we're using the channels like RGB, it means that, say for example, if R was the base color, that would be slotted in there, and then G could be slotted into the normals. So it just depends if you're using that setup, and I know Polyhaven has that option to download your maps like that, so just in case any of you have done that, that's what's going on there. So we can save that one. That's the material setup. If we go into the model itself and pop the material in here, it will apply to this object itself here now, and then anytime you bring it into the scene, it will have that material applied to it because it's applied to this base material now. Okay, so we can drag that into the scene. If we had it in the scene already and we just dragged it like this onto that object, it wouldn't apply to the base object. So if we dragged another one out from the content drawer, it would end up having to have that object or the material applied again. You can always alt drag though, so if you press alt on the keyboard and drag, you can make copies like this, so you don't have to worry about that aspect. Other things to think about here is it's quite shiny, and I don't want it to be shiny. I don't have a roughness map that I exported for this object, so what you'd want to do in that case then, you can hopefully see that shine there. So just to switch off the shiny value that you've got there, I'm just going to slot in a node into the roughness slot. So if I press hold 1 on the keyboard and click, I can get a value here that I pop into the roughness slot. This is super shiny now because it has 0, but if I put 1 on there, then it will make it flat, no specularity. So if we just save that off, you should see that shine go. So that's more what we're expecting there. So there are instances where you may need to kind of check other nodes that you don't necessarily have a map for, or maybe you didn't export a map for, but that's just how you would set that up there. Just note as well then, I have been a bit naughty with this UV layout here, and I'm only using a portion of the map. This would be a great opportunity for you to share a map, really, because you've got all this space here. I'll show you here, actually, it might be a bit easier, because I'm only actually using this section of this whole map. This whole area here is completely wasted. So when we're talking about things like using atlas maps, or the idea of using trim sheets, it's all about saving space. So if I was able to think of another object that I'd like to share this map with, it means that instead of bringing in a whole set of texture maps for another object that I'm importing into the scene, it means that I can actually share the same map. So what that would do then is I'd make sure when I'm unwrapping it in modeling software that all the UVs for the other object sit within this zone of the UV mapping area. And then when I apply the same texture map, it's actually only taking information from this area, so it could look completely different to this object and the colouring on that object. But yeah, that's what I was trying to talk about before when we were talking about atlas maps and how we can save space. So just so you know, then, if you're only using a small portion, that's where you want to be thinking about sharing that map with another object. Okay, hope that helps.